Addressing the EPA's new lead and copper rule revisions to protect public health in cities across the United States is a complex effort. From developing an inventory to home and school sampling programs to potential lead service line replacements, it's a lot to juggle. How can water utilities keep the public in the loop? I spoke with Anna McNeil, an environmental planner who specializes in public outreach for lead in drinking water. She told me a little bit about how crucial public education is to complete these programs and why effective communication is a building block to achieve environmental justice and health equity. Check it out. Can you tell me a little bit about the connection between public education and public health?
Ooh, this is my favorite topic. So with my background being, the social sciences and public health, I think it's very important to always connect public education to public health because people need to understand why we are telling them things and why, the science is saying what it says and why we do what we do. A lot of times people do not understand that. So for instance, I'll just reference COVID-19. We had a large pushbacks with, vaccinations. People didn't understand how a vaccination could come about that fast, what that meant, what these vaccination cards were, and so on and so forth. But if you look in the history of vaccinations, vaccination cards are not new. But seeing as the public doesn't know that, and that's not something widely, taught about in schools, there was a lot of pushback on things that we just didn't understand at the time. Public education is so important because we have to be able to tell people why, how, and where to go from here. And when we think of where to go from here, we're always trying to move forward.
If you're enjoying this conversation and would like to hear more from the brightest minds in environment and infrastructure, please like and subscribe. And if you want to make sure that your water system is on track for compliance with the lead and copper rule revisions by the 2024 deadline, take a look at our checklist in the link below. All right, back to the discussion. So in primarily lead-affected areas, how can really effective public communication promote environmental justice and health equity?
I would first say it's always going to be through the education, letting the people know if they don't already know, because a lot of environmental justice areas do know that they have a problem, may not know what the problem is, but they are aware that the problem exists. Next, I would say effective communications also allows for open communication. So when we do send out things, we do expect feedback. We do expect sometimes pushback if it's a larger issue than, the utility or anyone knew about. And just in that pushback, we usually find, concerns of health and fear. People might not understand what's going on. People might not understand why we're ripping up the roads to replace their pipes or even understand what lead does to the body. And that will always tie back into the education piece because this educational material that we're sending out needs to be understandable in a way that these communities can absorb and then, take action and protect themselves. How can they get signed up for the lead service line replacement program? What do they need to do to protect themselves from, possible health effects in the future?
So why do certain communities react differently to public health concerns than others do?
So historically, different groups will just have different issues just because of what they've gone through. And, generational trauma is a thing, and we learn from our ancestors and the people that came before us. So while working through these issues, we must always understand in communications to look back culturally, see what's happened, and see how we can take that into consideration when we're communicating just to get the message that we need to get across so that we can protect people and, again, move forward.
Can you tell me a little bit about your passion for what you do?
So my passion for communications, especially environmental communications, started at my alma mater, Howard University. And I was very passionate about the environment, but at the time I didn't see any major really that was in my wheelhouse. So I was studying at the time biology and sociology. I really saw that my community, at least the African American community, has connections to the environment, but a lot of us aren't as educated as we would like on environmental justice, environmental racism, what that looks like, in turn, then we can't protect ourselves from these things. So that was where my passion really started. Then in 2020, I went to the Rollins School of Public Health at Emory University, where I really honed into my love for communication, but also for public health and the health of people in general in environmental instances. And that's kind of how I ended up at CDM Smith, working as an environmental planner on the water services group. And I work a lot with lead and drinking water and lead service line replacement because that is a very big part of, at least for my work right now, a very big part of, just educating people, making sure environmental justice is looked at, addressing environmental racism. So I'm still doing what I love to do, and I'm helping the communities that I feel are underrepresented and underserved. But I just found a way to connect my passions with my career.
Autumn, it was great to talk with you today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, and I would love to talk again.